You are not stuck. You are simply caught in the $100,000 trap. There is a very specific mathematical reason why your progress feels so brutal and slow right now. If you have been investing $500 every single month and wondering why your balance barely seems to budge, you need to listen closely. Assuming a long-term average annual return of 7%, reaching your first $100,000 takes about 7 years and 9 months. During this time, the process feels like an uphill battle where you are doing all the heavy lifting. Today, I'm going to show you the exact breakdown of the $46,500 you put in versus the roughly $53,500 in growth. I will explain why everything flips the very moment you cross that six-figure finish line. Stay with me, because once you understand this specific tipping point, the milestones that follow will stop looking like impossible dreams. They will start looking like inevitable results of a system that finally has enough fuel to run on its own. So, why does your balance still feel so stuck in the early stages? Let us talk about the $100,000 trap and why it feels like nothing you do is working. Early on, your own deposits are so much larger than your investment results that they actually drown out your progress. Even though the engine is running and you are doing everything right, the results look flat. You are consistent, you automate your savings, and you add money every single month. Then you open your account app and you see a change that barely exceeds the deposit you just made. If you put in $500 and the total only goes up by $520, your brain reads that as a failure. It feels like noise, not wealth building. But I want you to understand that this is not a failure. This is the quiet phase of compounding where the math simply hasn't had enough time to show its strength. The problem in plain terms is that growth on a small base doesn't look like much to the human eye. When your account is just getting started, the return dollars are tiny because the total amount is tiny. After a few months or even a few years of this, doubt starts to creep in. You might wonder if you should change your strategy, chase higher returns, or just wait for a better time. That doubt is the most expensive mistake you can make. The first few years are not about seeing impressive gains on a screen. They are about building the physical base that all your future wealth will eventually multiply from. Compounding works from the very first day. But below 6 figures, your monthly contribution is always the loudest thing in the room. At $10,000, a 7% annual gain is only $700. But when you are contributing $6,000 a year, that $700 feels modest and unimportant. Our minds want to see giant leaps, but compounding gives you inches long before it hands you yards. This mismatch tricks people into thinking that absolutely nothing is happening. This is the greatest behavioral risk in investing. Many people stop exactly one step before their compounding becomes visible to the naked eye. They pause their deposits or move to cash because the feedback they are getting is too slow. Think of it like learning to play an instrument. For a long time, everything sounds messy and your fingers hurt. Then, one day, a clean chord rings out, and suddenly you can play a full song. The messy noise you heard in the beginning was not a failure. It was the foundation. This pattern of slow progress followed by explosive growth is not a fluke. Wealth building follows a curved line, not a straight one. The snowball starts small and heavy, but it accelerates as the base grows larger. Early returns feel small, and later returns feel decisive, but they are both powered by the exact same process. The goal is not to fight this silent phase. The goal is to get through it as fast as possible. That means keeping your deposits steady while the base grows large enough for growth to become the main contributor. Once that base expands, you will notice single-digit percentages translating into thousands of dollars in gains. There is a clear ignition point where this flip begins. That point is $100,000. Around that level, the growth line starts to challenge your monthly deposits, and then it eventually surpasses them. At that stage, the account begins to move without you pushing it quite so hard. Your job changes from being the engine to simply being the person who protects it. Let us break down the practical roadmap to your first $100,000. The plan is simple enough to run on total autopilot. If you invest $500 a month at a long-term average return of 7% a year, you reach the finish line in 7 years and 9 months. That timeline is not a guess. It is based on 93 consistent deposits, totaling about $46,500 of your own money. The rest is pure growth. You might worry about what happens if the market dips or if returns vary. The truth is, they will. Consistency is the only part of this equation that you can actually control. That control matters more than a perfect forecast, because the 7% figure is a long-term average, not a monthly guarantee. Over those 93 months, your contributions do the heavy work. But near the end, a 7% gain on an $80,000 balance moves the account by thousands of dollars a year. That is the moment when logging into your account feels different. It feels different because the money is finally adding as much as you are. Consider the story of two investors, Alex and Jaime. Alex pauses his contributions after a rough year because he feels like the plan isn't working. Jaime keeps buying every single month, regardless of what the news says. When the market recovers, Jaime has a much larger number of shares because he bought them while prices were lower. Jaime reaches the $100,000 mark months, or even a year sooner than Alex. The difference was not luck. It was uninterrupted accumulation. When growth dollars start matching your deposit dollars, your motivation will naturally steady itself. The urge to tinker with your portfolio will fade because you can finally see the momentum. Once you pass six figures, the next stage of wealth stops being an abstract idea. It starts feeling real because the math begins to fund actual life expenses. Take the milestone of $650,000. At that level, a conservative withdrawal of 4% provides $26,000 a year. In many areas, that covers the essentials like housing or groceries. When your portfolio covers your essentials, your job becomes optional in slow motion. How long does it take to get from $100,000 to $650,000? If you keep contributing $500 a month, at that same 7% return, it takes roughly 13 to 15 years. The jump sounds huge, but the heavy lifting is now being done by the money you built in that first difficult phase. The calendar time does more of the work than your willpower does. That is why $100,000 is the most important milestone you will ever reach. It is the waypoint that changes every single option you have in life. So, how do you turn these big ideas into a system you can actually run when life gets busy? You do not need a complex financial model. You need a short list of rules that you can follow on any given day. Rule number 1 is automation. Pay yourself first on every single payday. Set your transfers so the money moves before you even see it. Treat it with the same urgency as your rent or your mortgage. If your income varies, automate a small fixed amount and then manually add a percentage during good months. Rule number 2 is the annual step-up. Increase your monthly contribution by 1 or 2% of your income every single year. Tie this increase to a specific date, like your birthday or a new year. Small bumps of even $25 a month can shave months off your timeline to wealth. Rule number 3 is diversification. Use broad index funds for your core wealth and keep it simple. If your timeline is long, keep the majority in equities and ignore the daily noise of the media. Rule number 4 is downturn discipline. Keep buying on schedule when the market is red. Market drops are actually a gift to the long-term investor because they allow you to buy more for less. Rule number 5 is to celebrate your mini milestones. Mark every $25,000 you achieve. These checkpoints create visible proof that the plan is working. They reduce the urge to quit during the slow early phase. Run these 5 rules and your patience will eventually turn into permanent progress. The early quiet phase will finally start to make sense as you see the balance grow. To conclude, early growth is slow by design. It is a test of your character and your consistency. Set a goal to hit your first $100,000 and do not stop until you get there. Automate your $500 a month, schedule your annual increases, and keep buying through the dips. Consistent and automated contributions are the only way to unlock the true power of compounding. Treat $100,000 as your primary mission. Once you escape that trap, the next thresholds will move from distant fantasies to certain milestones. Build the base, let the returns work, and keep your system running. The life you want is waiting for you on the other side of that first $100,000.